There are signals that speak louder than words, whispers of attraction that can't easily be disguised. When someone is captivated by your presence, their thoughts betray them, even if their lips remain sealed. It's often the smallest gestures, the most fleeting expressions that carry the greatest weight. These hidden signs reveal a mind that keeps circling back to you, unable to let go, unable to move past the pull you create. The gaze is often the first language of desire, and when thoughts are secretly anchored to someone, the eyes betray it long before words ever do. It isn't just about looking, because anyone can glance casually, but there's something distinctly different about a stare that lingers. It holds a weight, a magnetism that feels impossible to ignore. You notice it in the way the eyes follow your movements, not frantically, but softly and consistently, as though every gesture you make is quietly captivating. It's not the kind of attention that passes quickly like the flick of a stranger's gaze. It's a pull, one that seems to drink in every detail, as if trying to memorize the moment. There's often an intensity hidden in this prolonged eye contact, a silent conversation being held without a single word spoken, and yet it feels louder than anything else in the room. What makes it even more telling is the contrast. The eyes may dart away quickly when caught, a sudden look downward, a forced glance at something else, as if trying to cover up what's already been revealed. That momentary escape is its own confession, because if there were nothing to hide, the eyes would hold steady with ease. But instead, there's a rhythm, look, linger, retreat, repeat, that tells the story of someone trying to balance fascination with secrecy. It creates a tension, one that can almost be felt in the air, as though every glance carries a hidden layer of meaning too delicate to say aloud. The beauty of lingering eye contact is that it doesn't just show attraction, it shows investment. It reflects a mind that has gone beyond the surface and become quietly curious, perhaps even captivated by what it sees. That gaze becomes more than visual, it transforms into a mirror of thought, reflecting the truth that someone is thinking beyond the present moment. Even without words, the eyes are saying, "I notice you, I can't help but notice you." And it's that unspoken noticing, repeated again and again, that reveals just how deeply those thoughts run. There's a language that the body speaks without permission, a collection of small, almost invisible movements that reveal what the heart is trying so hard to keep quiet. When thoughts become restless and filled with curiosity about someone, the body reacts in ways that cannot easily be disguised. The shoulders square unconsciously, the chest lifts slightly, and there's a subtle lean forward, as though closing the space between two people feels natural, even if the moment doesn't call for it. These changes often happen without awareness, because the body responds instinctively when the mind is preoccupied. It's not rehearsed, it's not planned, but it carries an undeniable energy of wanting to be noticed. Nervousness also plays its role. The fidgeting with a sleeve, the smoothing of hair, the shifting of weight from one foot to another. Each of these little adjustments may seem meaningless to an outsider, but together they create a pattern. It's the body's way of releasing the tension that builds up from excitement, from the silent thrill of being near someone who is constantly on the mind. And when those movements become more frequent only in certain company, it becomes clear that they aren't random at all. They're driven by the emotions that presence awakens. Even the smallest gestures tell their story. Fingers tapping lightly on a surface, a sudden laugh that seems a touch louder than necessary, or a voice that rises ever so slightly in tone, all are cues of heightened awareness. The body is not calm because the heart is not calm. It's caught between the desire to appear collected and the surge of feeling that refuses to remain hidden. And in this delicate battle, subtle signs leak through. Perhaps the most telling is the way proximity is handled. The steps draw closer without thought. The chair shifts inward during a conversation. And there's an unconscious desire to close the gap, no matter how small. This leaning in is rarely about comfort, it's about instinct, the pull to be nearer to what the mind is quietly consumed by. It is in these small, fleeting shifts, The nervous touch, the tilted posture, the lowered barrier, that the truth reveals itself. The body, untrained in deception, always betrays what the heart longs to keep secret. It's rarely coincidence when someone always seems to appear at just the right time, when encounters feel almost accidental but carry the rhythm of intention. The truth is, when thoughts are occupied, the mind naturally searches for opportunities to bridge distance, and so excuses begin to form. A casual stop by, a sudden question that doesn't really need asking, or a quick offer to help with something minor. These little actions are not about necessity, they are about presence. It's as though every moment provides a chance to draw closer, and those chances are quietly taken again and again. What makes it more revealing is the pattern. One coincidence may be brushed off, but when it becomes consistent, it shows design. There's an eagerness to be around, even if the reason doesn't hold weight. It might be a quick comment dropped into conversation, a suggestion to join in on something that wasn't originally planned, or finding a reason to linger longer than needed. These excuses may be small on the surface, but they stem from a desire that is much larger. It isn't about the task at hand. It's about the silent satisfaction of simply being near. In many cases, these efforts are disguised with casualness. The tone may stay light, the words may sound ordinary, but the repetition betrays the truth. One doesn't keep inventing reasons to show up unless there is a pull strong enough to make those efforts worth it. And even when there's no real necessity, the persistence of these small actions makes it clear that proximity is the real goal. It can also be noticed in how time is stretched. A conversation that could have ended in a few words continues to flow, pauses are filled with new questions, and departures are delayed with just one more thing. These extensions of time are rarely about what's being said. They are about not wanting the moment to end, about holding on to the closeness for just a little longer. At its core, this behavior is a reflection of longing masked as casual connection. The excuses, the lingering, the sudden appearances, they all point to a mind searching for ways to satisfy its quiet obsession. Even when words are careful, the actions speak louder, leaving behind the undeniable truth that being near matters more than anything else. Curiosity has a way of slipping through the cracks, revealing itself in questions that go far beyond the surface. When someone's thoughts are wrapped around another, even the smallest details become treasures worth knowing. It starts with simple inquiries that might seem harmless at first. What kind of music sparks joy? What food is a guilty pleasure? Or what routines shape the day? But over time, the questions dig deeper, touching on memories, dreams, and personal values. This hunger for knowledge isn't just casual interest, it's the natural pull of a mind that craves closeness, that wants to weave itself into the fabric of another's world. It's in the way the smallest things are remembered. A comment made in passing weeks ago resurfaces in conversation, showing that it wasn't just heard, it was stored away like something precious. That kind of attentiveness doesn't happen by accident. It's the mark of someone whose thoughts return again and again, replaying words, recalling moments, and holding on to fragments that others might overlook. This attention to detail reflects more than good memory. It reflects investment, the desire to create a deeper connection by piecing together the puzzle of who someone truly is. There's also a particular warmth in the way curiosity is expressed. The questions don't feel mechanical or forced, they carry a genuine energy as though every answer matters more than it should. The tone shifts slightly, becoming softer, more engaged, almost leaning in through words alone. That shift reveals not just interest in what is said, but fascination with the person saying it. Even silence plays a role. There's patience to listen without rushing, space given for stories to unfold, and a kind of presence that shows the conversation isn't about filling time. It's about savoring it. The focus remains steady, free from distractions, as though in that moment nothing else demands attention. And when conversations end, there's often a follow-up later. Another question that continues the thread, showing that the curiosity doesn't fade once the words stop. This depth of interest is one of the clearest signs of hidden fascination. When every detail matters, when every story sparks further curiosity, it becomes impossible to deny that thoughts are constantly circling back. The mind doesn't just want to know. It wants to understand, to connect, and to hold on tightly to every piece of someone who has quietly become impossible to forget. There are moments when emotions slip through without warning, creating subtle shifts in behavior that reveal far more than words ever could. It becomes noticeable in the way the atmosphere changes with presence, like the sudden lift in energy when a familiar face enters the room. The smile appears faster, laughter comes more easily, and even the smallest interactions seem to carry a brightness that isn't there otherwise. These are not rehearsed reactions, they are instinctive responses born from a mind that feels a surge of excitement it can't quite hide. But just as the lightness is clear, so too is the weight when absence is felt. The energy dims, the words are shorter, and a kind of restlessness sets in, as if something vital has gone missing. It's not always obvious, yet if one looks closely, the contrast is undeniable. The joy of presence versus the quiet drop of absence. These fluctuations don't happen without cause. They reflect a heart tied closely to a specific presence, one that it unconsciously depends on to shape its emotional rhythm. Sometimes the shifts are even more delicate. There may be a sudden nervousness, a stammer where speech is usually smooth, or a quick flush of color that rises uninvited. These little giveaways are not mistakes, they're the body's reaction to emotions that are too strong to be perfectly managed. No matter how carefully someone tries to appear calm, the truth slips out in these fleeting cracks. What makes these changes so powerful is their consistency. A single moment of excitement could be coincidence, but when the pattern repeats, when joy always follows presence and silence always follows absence, it becomes impossible to ignore. It's the steady rhythm of emotions tied to another person's orbit, a rhythm that can't be faked for long. And beyond all of this, there's an unspoken vulnerability in these reactions. They show that thoughts aren't casual, that the connection isn't surface level. They reveal that someone's mood, energy, and even sense of ease are deeply influenced by the pull of another. That kind of influence doesn't come lightly. It comes from constant thought, quiet admiration, and the inability to separate inner emotions from outer behavior. These subtle yet undeniable shifts are the silent evidence of a mind that can't stop circling back, no matter how much it tries to appear otherwise. There comes a point when even the most carefully built walls can't hold back what the heart is trying to express. No matter how disciplined, no matter how cautious, emotions have a way of slipping through in the smallest, most unexpected moments. It could be in the tone of a single word, carrying a warmth that feels heavier than it should, or in a fleeting look that holds more meaning than an entire conversation. These are the moments when control falters, when admiration peeks through and the truth becomes visible, even if just for a breath of time. Sometimes it shows in the way sentences stumble. Words may trip over each other, not because of confusion, but because the mind is racing ahead with feelings that can't be neatly contained. There's a hesitance before speaking, a pause too long, or a rush to cover up something that almost escaped. These slips may be minor, but they carry weight because they reveal what someone is working so hard to hide. Other times it's the expression that betrays everything. A smile that lingers longer than usual, eyes that soften unexpectedly, or a flash of vulnerability that flickers across the face before quickly being replaced with composure. These fleeting moments are unplanned, uncontrolled, and that's what makes them authentic. They speak the truth without permission, leaving behind traces of emotion too strong to stay buried. It can also be felt in how attention wavers. In the middle of conversation, there's a sudden quietness, as though thoughts drifted somewhere deeper, somewhere they shouldn't be. A sentence begins one way but ends differently, as though the mind couldn't quite keep up with the pull of emotion. These moments may seem small, but to someone paying attention, they reveal an undercurrent of fascination that no amount of careful behavior can fully disguise. What makes these emotional slips so powerful is that they are involuntary. They are not crafted, not calculated, but born from genuine feeling. They show that beneath the calm exterior lies a heart that is quietly, relentlessly drawn in. And when these slips happen more than once, when they weave themselves into the pattern of interaction, the message becomes clear, the mind is restless, the heart is unguarded, and the thoughts are already far too entangled to hide.